that Moshe Rabbeinu does the Tfilas Asher. The Tfilas Asher means that he draws down from a level that's totally beyond Seder Ishtalshlus. It's a level that's beyond Seviv Kalam, beyond the Mal Kalam, beyond the Spashta Zoin, beyond the Gilui, beyond all the Giluyim. And why and how does he do it? He does it in a way of Tfilah, because to be able to relate to the levels below, it has to be and it has to connect with the level of Malchus, not to be Malmaila Mata, just because Moshe Rabbeinu's level was the level of an Usher, the level having to do with Atzmus that's higher than all the Seder Ishtalshlus. If he doesn't do it in a way of Tefillah, if it doesn't come from below, so then it's not identified with the avoid of the Tachton. And way how Moshe Rabbeinu, who has this level, is doing it in a way of Tefillah, it's because Moshe Rabbeinu so identifies with Am Yisrael, with Knesset Yisrael, that something that's by him in a way of something that's by him, that he has it. He has the level of Ashirus. Still in all, despite the fact that he has the level of Ashirus, he identifies with the Yidden, that by them it's lacking. So therefore, he feels their lack, and therefore he is drawing down it in their level. And that concern and that level that he draws down from his level of Ashirus is something that touches his Pnimius. Because what is Moshe all about? His Pnimius is about that he's the shepherd of the Yidden. So therefore, since his Pnimius is about he's the shepherd of the Yidden, so to this connection that he has and this drawing down of the level of Usher now becomes by him a level of Pnimius that he would not have had if he wouldn't have davened for the Yidden and just experienced it as an Usher alone without the Tefillah Usher is concerned for the Yidden. So now the Rebbe is going to connect us back to the topic of Yud Beis Tmuz, which we said that the capital in Tehillim of Tefillah Moshe, which the Zohar says that the Tefillah Usher was said by the Alter Rebbe when he went out of prison and was connected with the Frierdiker Rebbe's going out of prison, because the same idea by them. We'll soon explain how that is. Ois Yud Beis, line 21. So too, it's in the expansion of Moshe, extension of Moshe in every generation, that they have this Tefillah Usher, they have this concern and feeling for Klal Yisrael, that even though they might not be lacking anything, but since Klal Yisrael is lacking, they are considered, they are davening, and they are davening for that lack. Until and including the previous Rebbe, the one whose Geula was Yud Beis Tmuz. Who the primary thing, the innermost thing of what the Frierdiker Rebbe was about is Shu Royan Shel Yisrael, that he is the shepherd of the Yid. And the matters of the Yidden are the matters of the Nasi. They share, they are experiencing the same thing. So what the Yidden lack, the Nasi feels that he's lacking, and therefore he's in the way of Tefillah. Now he's going to explain a very interesting thing about the whole idea of the imprisonment. Through this, we'll be able to explain the advantage that came about in the redemption of Kislev and the redemption of Beis Tmuz through the imprisonment. That we know that it's the advantage and the greatness and the increase of light that happens because of the darkness and out of the darkness, that because of that, there was so much greater light afterwards in, like the Rebbe always talks about the Chassidus and Alter Rebbe that increased and grew after the imprisonment, and the Frierdiker Rebbe's growth and spreading out of Chassidus that through coming to America was so much more powerful and greater and over the entire world, which was not possible when he was in the Soviet Union. So seemingly, there's got to be a choshev. That's the basis of it. The Rebbe is going to ask, similar to what we said about Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was an usher. How is it possible for him to be at tefillah? Same thing. The Frierdiker Rebbe and the Alter Rebbe, their imprisonment was not really their own choshev. It says in line 27, the Lechura seemingly Kimush Benegel on the sea. Like Shaykh Loimer should be Yosim and Meiser Hoya Lagab Mezin Shal Chosha, since concerning the Nisim, but they were in the imprisonment. It's impossible to say that there was by them any particular idea of darkness or Kamuvan Gama Sicha Yidu the Balagula, like it's known and understood from the famous Sicha of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Benegel on Meiser Shal Admorazokim concerning the imprisonment of the Alter Rebbe Shal Meiser Hoya Baska Moshe, that the imprisonment was by his agreement. He would not have gone into prison if he would have not agreed to it with the decree of Bezen Shalmailam. Therefore, if it was up to him, the Mizem Muvan Shalagabom from this understood that concerning the Nasim, Lamas Vastem da Meiser Himrak Bechetzoyin, the concealments and coverings of the imprisonment are only external. And we know the stories that Alter Rebbe in prison, that he had the revelations of his Baal Shem Tov and Mizuk Shemagid. They were in a totally different state. So therefore, by the Rebbe, by the Alter Rebbe, by the Frierdiker Rebbe, there was no real idea of darkness. So if there was no real idea of darkness in the prison, how do you have the additional light that's supposed to grow out of the darkness if they didn't experience darkness? So the Rebbe is going to explain that darkness was because they identified with the Chassidim, with the Yidden, and for them it was dark. Yes, Shloimeh, Mabiyur and Bezer could say amongst explanations about this is the Kibbutz Shikar in Yom Shal Nisim. Uzeshem Roy Yisrael Nasi Yisrael, since the main idea of the Nisim is that they are the shepherds of the Yidden, they are the leaders of the Yidden. Lachein Ha'el V'Hester Da Ma'aser Shoy B'Negel Yisrael B'Negel Yisrael. Well, V'Hester Gam L'Gab Nisim. Therefore, the concealment and the covering of the imprisonment that the Yidden felt. The imprisonment of the Alter Rebbe, the Yidden suffered from the imprisonment of the Frierdiker Rebbe. That was a feeling that they shared with their flock, that they shared with the Yidden. And therefore, since they experienced it, just like we said by Moshe Rabbeinu, even though he was an usher, he experienced the loss of the Yidden and Malchus's loss. Therefore, it was by him also the mile of tefillah, the same thing, so too by the redemption from imprisonment. When the darkness was transformed to light, Nasa Yisroel became the addition and the light, the increase in the light, since by them identifying completely with the Yidden and the Chassidim, they had experienced the darkness as well, and therefore there was the light that's increased from. And the Rebbe is going to tie this in some more of what we spoke about the Tefillah L'Moshe. I did Gimel. Spoiler: El Shashaychas Da Gold Yutas Kislev based Tamos Lam Mizberet Tefillah L'Moshe. The connection between the redemption of this Kislev based Tamos to what the capital that we're saying Tefillah L'Moshe. Uhein in Yonam Apratim Shnamru and Mizma. We said at the beginning when we introduced this topic of Tefillah L'Moshe that it's both connected with that capital and Tillah. Both to the detailed matters that are talking about in that capital in Tillim, and the close on Mizmar Tefillah Moshe, and how much more so to the general content and the general idea of the capital Tefillah Moshe. That's a tefillah for Moshe. That the Zohar says it's tefillah Sasher. It's a tefillah of a rich person. According to what we brought previously from the Maimer Rashab, that what was the riches of Moshe Rabbeinu? It was the riches because he had the revelation of the Atzmos of Eresof that's higher than Soivu, and therefore Rashaych is a Tefillah Osher, and the connection of the tefillah of the rich person. That we say it's analogous to someone that went to the king and asked him, Medina Ploinus Kulu, that particular country is destroyed. Gizar Shtibana. You should decree that it should be built. Why is it connected? Why is that connected to riches? Why do you need to rebuild Malchus and so on, Knesset Yisrael, from the level of Atzmos? Why isn't that enough? Why is it not enough? Why do you need to go all the way that high to Tfilas Asher? He says, we explained earlier, so that the building up of Malchus, which is the nimshal for the word Medina. Medina is the level of Malchus, should be in a way that's an everlasting building, Why they should through being drawn down to it, the revelation of Atzmus. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu needed to be the one that drew down from the level of his Ashiras, so that the Medina should truly be built in an everlasting manner. So the Rebbe is going to apply this now as well to the Geula of Yuteskis based Tmuz, that it wasn't just a revelation of Mamale or Soiva, but really a revelation of Atzmus. Shloimer, we could say the Yisnoir Shanasa Begul Yut based Tmuz, the additional light that we said there's Yisnoir Abam Nachoshep, the additional light that comes out of the darkness that occurred on the Geula of Yutes Kislev and Yud based Tmuz. It's drawing down the level of the Atzmus of Ein that's higher than Mamala and Soiv. So now he's going to explain where do we see in the miracle of this Kislev, in the miracle of Beis Tammuz, the revelation that's higher than Mamala and Soiv. He says in line 23. We could say the fact that the redemption of Yutes Kislev in 12th of Tammuz was as an open miracle beyond nature. But still in all, the miracle was enclosed in nature. In other words, there were two components. It was supernatural. The fact that the Frierdiker Rebbe was released from prison, from the clutches under Stalinist Russia, was like an amazing miracle. At the very same time, it wasn't just that all of a sudden, miraculously, the walls of the prison fell down, and miraculously he was flown out of Russia on wings of eagles. No, it went through the appropriate channels, through the appropriate ways of nature. It was a government decision, and they gave him the papers, and he couldn't wait he couldn't even be released when he was right away told, because it was a government holiday. He had to wait till the next day when the government could actually give him physically the papers. He had to physically get on a train and leave and go back to Moscow, etc., etc. So it was beyond nature and enclosed in nature. Even though the miracle was enclosed in nature, it was in such a way that the nature did not conceal and cover over the miracle. Until at all the ends of the earth, they saw it was an open miracle. Throughout the world, people recognized the miraculous nature of this, of getting out of the clutches of Stalin. Because the root of Teva, as we know, is from Shem Elokim. Shem Elokim, the level of the Malachal Almond, that is the level where nature comes from. The root of miracles is from the level of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, the level of Soviv Kalam. But over here was like a meeting of the two. There was nature and beyond nature meeting together. What level can bring the two together? Havai and Elokim and Mala and Soiviv, like the Rebbe always talks about, has to be a level that's higher. Since in the redemption, there was a revelation of Hashem's very essence, the infinite light of Hashem that's beyond Soiviv and Mala. That level that's higher than Soiviv and Mala includes in it and has Soiviv and Mala together. Therefore, the miracle came about in that type of way that it expressed Mamale and Soiviv, Nes and Teva. Therefore, the redemption was in such a way that the miracle and nature were joined together. Yichud Havai Elokim, the union of Havai and Elokim. Shlomo, we could say, Shagilu Doirasav Shalom Mailam Soiviv and Mal Bechibur the Nes. The Shashashim Soiviv, the Teva Shashashim Mailam. This revelation of the Ein Sof that's higher than Soiv and Mal, and it expressed itself in joining miracle and nature that comes from Soiv and Mal at top of page of Gimel. It's only that it's felt in them a matter that's higher than the both, that because of that it forces and causes both of them to join. The very fact that the nature itself was in such a way that it didn't conceal and cover over the miracle, and to such a degree that even the opponents that remained then in their full force, the Communist Party did not disband. The Jewish section of the Communist Party that was fully functional and doing all their terrible work, called Mutton still in all. They were still normal force to assist, and in their power, that their strength that they had in the release and in the redemption. Why is that so? Why? It's through Malchus itself, the root of all creations was revealed its true root. So therefore, you can have the Nevroim, and in the Nevroim should be manifest something that's higher than them. So you have, as shown, the communists, and in them you have revealed the purpose that Friedrich Rebbe has to go free. According to this, understood even more the connection and the association between the redemption to the capital Tfilah Moshe, Tfilas Asher, the Tfilah of a rich person, the Indian Tfilas Asher, who Medina Ploin is like we said, that the Tfilah of the rich person is that he asks that that country should be decreed that should be rebuilt. Shachas Gili Atzim himself from Malchus, the drawing down of the essence of the himself from Malchus. That's just like keeping the communists in place, that they were still fully functional, and in their being in place, you had them being manipulated to let the Friedrich Rebbe go. Line 14, page Gimel. Through the joining of miracle in nature, it took place by the redemption. So all those that are going in the ways of the one whose redemption it was, they were given the empowerment that the belief that's beyond intellect, which is in avoid the idea of miracle. What is the idea of miracle in my avoid Hashem? That something is beyond, I'm doing it beyond rational reason, connected to Chukah Zapara, like we're soon going to explain. And that should come down in nature. What does it mean coming down in nature? Coming down in my intellect. That which transcends intellect should come down to intellect. And the intellect should not conceal and cover belief, just like the nature and the strength of the communists did not conceal the power to manipulate them to let Friedrich Rebbe go. Similar to this is concerning spreading your well springs outward. It began primarily in the redemption of the 19th of Kislev by the Alter Rebbe and the Pasuk by Yosef Bagul Yud Beis Tmuz, and was increased even more so, like I mentioned earlier, by the redemption of the 12th of Tammuz that caused Friedrich Rebbe to come to America eventually, and Hafat Samayonis took on a whole different caliber, like the Rebbe explains. Through the joining of miracle nature that was by the redemption, it was given the power to spread the well springs of the inner part of the Torah. The well springs of the inner part of the Torah is like the miracle of Torah. It's beyond nature, beyond understanding, and it was spread outward. In such a manner, even when they're found in the outside, near the it's visible in a revealed way that these are the well springs of the inner part of the Torah. So, in other words, you have, like we said before, in nature, it's felt above nature. In Malchus, you see its root. Then he says, on this also when they're found outside. Even while they're outside, even while they're nature, you see the miracle. Even while they're outside, you see that they are the well springs. It's not just because the well springs are revealed. It's because now the outside becomes something that doesn't conceal and cover over the well springs. You say them is even more so, not only doesn't it conceal, that it's a vessel, a container that could be a vehicle for these well springs. But this becomes a close preparation to fulfillment of the promise that the glory of Hashem will come revealed, and all flesh will see together that the mouth of Hashem spoke. Shabbos and Yireh, that the flesh itself will see godliness. Not only because of the revelation of the glory of Havayim, but also because of the flesh itself. The flesh itself will be able to see godliness also. So now we're going to get back to what we spoke about earlier in the Maimer. And we spoke about the idea that how could it be that we're saying that Moshe Rabbeinu, which was a level of L'chani Megala Tampara, he was the one that gave the Yidden a level of Kabbalah's oil and an appreciation of this idea of the Lamayla Min HaSeichel should be brought down into mitzvahs of Seichel, when by him the mitzvah of Paraduma was a logical mitzvah. So if by Moshe Rabbeinu the mitzvah of Paraduma was a logical mitzvah, how could it be that he could impart to the Yidden the Zois Chokas HaTorah, that all the logical mitzvahs should be done with Kabbalah's oil that's higher than Seichel? If by him it wasn't higher than Seichel, by him even Paraduma was something he understood. This is the question we asked at the beginning of the Maimer. Based on what we explained, that the Rabbeim, the Nesiim, the Moshe Rabbeinu identifies with the flock and experiences what they experience, we'll be able to explain this also concerning Zois Chokas HaTorah. Ois Yudalid, we'll leave the questions for afterwards so we can be able to conclude the Maimer today. This word says, speak to the Bnei Yisrael, they should bring to you the Paraduma. And we said, why does it say V'yichoi lecha Paraduma? Seemingly it has nothing to do with Moshe Rabbeinu. It has to do with Elazar HaKohen had to be brought to Paraduma. It was not his job to do the Paraduma. And because the Chazal say, because the Para is called by the name of Moshe. Why? The fact that Paraduma is called by Moshe Rabbeinu's name, since despite the fact that the unique thing of Paraduma over all the mitzvahs in the Torah is that you see in an open and recognizable way the super rational part of it, the chayk, the law, the decree, the will that's beyond wisdom. On the other hand, the chiv the tampara, since Moshe Rabbeinu himself, not even greater than Shlomo Melech, knew the reason for the parad. So by him, there's no difference in paraduma to all the mitzvahs. So why is the paraduma identified with him? Why is the paraduma identified with Moshe? The message of the paraduma is seemingly not Moshe. So he says in line 10, through the fact that the mitzvah of paraduma is for all the other Yidden, it's considered a chayk, it's considered something that's super rational. So Moshe Rabbeinu identifies with the Yidden. And because he identifies with the Yidden, he Moshe. Moshe feels what we are feeling. Moshe is experiencing what we are experiencing. So even though logically he might know the reason for Paraduma, because like he said, that is Chacham Atzilus, and Moshe Rabbeinu was a level of Atzilus even when he came down here. So still in all, it was a chayk even L'gabe Moshe, because he was experiencing what the Yidden were experiencing. That's why it says, speak to the Bnei Yisrael, they should bring it to you. He's saying a very interesting thing. Because Moshe had to speak to the Yidden, in other words, because of the relationship between Moshe Rabbeinu and the Yidden, that is why there was the Zois Chokas HaTorah by Moshe. If Moshe was not Daber al Bnei Yisrael, so then it couldn't be V'yichoi Lecha, it couldn't be identified with you. Because the only reason why Moshe Rabbeinu had the Maila of the Chayk of Paraduma was because of his connection with the Yid. On the other hand, this is the idea of Yichoi Lecha. The Yidden are adding to Moshe. This is very similar to the famous Ata Tetzaveh, where the Rebbe says that the Yidden had to Moshe, the same thing over here. What Yidden had to Moshe is concerning the mitzvah law. The idea that it's a chayk without any reason is primarily by the Yidden, and they bring it to Moshe Rabbeinu. They make that Moshe Rabbeinu should experience this super rational aspect of it as well. When we talk about that, the Yidden should actually fulfill the mitzvah. The fact that Yidden should be able to do all the mitzvahs in such a way of the bitl of Kabbalah soil, and should be able to do the paraduma as well in a way that it's a decree, in a way that it's a chayk. So we said earlier in the Maimer, Moshe is the one that inspires the Yidden. Moshe brings it to the Yidden. Moshe, the empowerment for this is from Moshe Rabbeinu Shinyanu bitl, because he has the level of bitl. Like we said, that he said about himself that he is what? He's the level of bittul, so he empowered the Yidden to do all the mitzvahs, even logical and rational mitzvahs in a way of bittul. So each one adds to the other. The Yidden, in a way, give them the super rational component to Moshe, and then Moshe can share that the Yidden should do all the mitzvahs out of bittul. Then the Rebbe adds in line 22, via Shloimer, we could say, Daidesha Moshe Yodatam Par. Through the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu knew the reason for the paradum. Therefore, the bitl of Kabbalah soil permeated his understanding. He understood and he had bitl. So every Yid was as well empowered because of the energy of Moshe Rabbeinu they received, that his belief and his acceptance of the yoke of heaven should be something that should be rational, should come down and make sense logically. Like the Rebbe a lot of times says, it's logical to understand that there's things that are super rational, that are beyond my understanding. Line 27, Shlomo, we could say, this is what the Chazal said, that it's a decree that I decreed, and you have no permission to even think after it. It's a very interesting expression. His acceptance of the yoke of heaven is not just that he does what he's supposed to do without question. He doesn't even think at all. How does this make sense? It doesn't make sense. Also intellectually, he feels and realizes the acceptance of the yoke. Yes, Kashas and Maimon Medrash can connect this with the Medrash's statement. Para Aduma remez ala golis, that the Para Aduma hints at all the four exiles that Yidden went through. Para, the Chazal explain how Para Zumitzrayim. The Medrash brings different psukim. And Aduma, the red, Zubavel, that's going on Bavel, Tmima, Zumadai, whole, complete, the completely red, that's going on Madai, Hashem Bamum, and has no blemish, the Yavan, it's going on Greece. Again, he doesn't go into here. It's in the Medrash. There's psukim about it. Through the fact that through the intellect, things are accepted by the person. The idea of the acceptance of the yoke of heaven that's beyond intellect. It's a close preparation for the future redemption. That the revelation of godliness in the world will be also from the perspective of the world. That the world will recognize the revelation of godliness, like we said before. That's why it's important to bring in all the Golos. Even the world, even the Golos will see the Geul. That's the connection between the Chayt and the burning up of the Para. The idea, through the Kabbalah soil being in such a way that he doesn't even think, because his mind is filled with Kabbalah soil. The Kabbalah soil, so it burns up the Golus, because he said before, Para Aduma hints at all levels of the Golus. So the Golus becomes burnt up because my mind becomes Kabbalah soil sized. Like the famous expression of the Frierdiker Rebbe about burning down the walls of Golus. We're going all together with our leader, the one who the redemption was at our head. The true and complete redemption with the coming of Mashiach speedily. Amen.